Good evening, and welcome to a special report that dives deep into one of the most heated debates currently gripping the nation. Tonight, we're tracking a story at the very heart of America's ongoing gun debate: the battle over firearm suppressors, more commonly known as silencers. These devices, which attach to the barrel of a firearm, have become a lightning rod for controversy, sparking passionate arguments on both sides of the aisle. A recent legal setback for suppressor rights has ignited outrage among gun owners and Second Amendment advocates. Many see this as not just a legal loss, but a direct attack on their constitutional freedoms and a fundamental misunderstanding of what suppressors actually do. For them, the issue is about more than just equipment. It's about rights, identity, and the future of gun ownership in America. Gun rights advocates argue that suppressors are essential safety tools, designed primarily to protect hearing and reduce noise pollution at shooting ranges. They emphasize that, contrary to Hollywood portrayals, suppressors do not make guns silent, but simply less damaging to the ears of shooters and bystanders alike. For many, these devices are about responsible gun use and public health. On the other side, gun control supporters warn that quieter gunfire could pose new risks to public safety. They argue that suppressors might make it harder for law enforcement and the public to detect gunshots, potentially delaying emergency response and increasing the danger in active shooter situations. For them, the stakes are high, and the risks are real. This ongoing clash puts suppressors at the intersection of law, technology, and culture, with both sides mobilizing for what could be a critical and defining fight in the broader gun rights movement. The debate is not just about hardware, but about the values and fears that shape American society. As the fallout from recent legal decisions continues to unfold, urgent questions arise for lawmakers, citizens, and communities alike. How do we balance individual rights with collective security? Is there a path to common ground in a nation so deeply divided over guns and safety? These are questions that demand thoughtful discussion and honest debate. Tonight, we'll explore the history, impact, and future of this contentious issue, tracing the evolution of suppressor laws and examining what's at stake for all Americans as the debate rages on. To understand today's debate, we look back to the National Firearms Act of 1934. Born from Prohibition-era violence, the NFA placed strict controls on machine guns, short-barreled shotguns, and silencers, not banning them, but making ownership expensive and bureaucratic. For decades, suppressors were rare, their ownership limited to a few willing to navigate the red tape and pay a hefty tax. But as shooting sports and concerns about hearing safety grew, gun owners began questioning why suppressors were regulated like machine guns. Gun rights groups pushed for deregulation, pointing to European countries where suppressors are common and sometimes required for hunting. The movement gained traction, with advocates arguing suppressors should be treated like any other firearm accessory. This set the stage for today's fierce legal and political battles. The fight over suppressors is now a central front in America's ongoing gun debate. The push for suppressor deregulation accelerated with the Hearing Protection Act, which aimed to remove suppressors from the NFA and treat them like standard firearm accessories. Supporters cited hearing loss prevention. Opponents warned of increased risks in active shooter scenarios. Legislative gridlock led advocates to seek change through the ATF, which in 2024 streamlined suppressor purchases, sparking a surge in sales. But gun control groups and state attorneys general challenged the rule in court, arguing only Congress could make such changes. The resulting legal battle created uncertainty for buyers and the industry. This conflict set the stage for a dramatic reversal that would shake the firearms community. In a stunning turn of events last week, the D.C. Circuit Court issued a decision that sent shockwaves through the firearms community and beyond. The court struck down the ATF's expedited suppressor rule, a regulation that had been hotly debated since its introduction. In its opinion, the court declared that the agency had overstepped its authority, arguing that the ATF's actions went beyond the powers granted to it by Congress. This ruling not only challenged the agency's interpretation of the law, but also set a precedent for how far federal agencies can go in regulating firearms. As a result, the ruling immediately reinstated the previous, much lengthier application process for obtaining suppressors. This older system is notorious for its bureaucratic hurdles, often taking months or even years for approval, and now gun owners and dealers must once again navigate this complex maze of paperwork and waiting periods. The sudden change has left both gun owners and firearms dealers in a state of uncertainty and confusion, unsure of how to proceed with pending applications and future sales. Outrage erupted almost immediately among gun rights groups, who saw the court's decision as a direct attack on their freedoms and a setback for Second Amendment rights. Leaders of these organizations quickly condemned the ruling, labeling it as judicial activism and vowing to take their fight all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. Gun owners across the country voiced their frustration and disappointment, feeling that the move unfairly punishes law-abiding citizens who follow the rules, while doing little to address actual crime. Meanwhile, gun control advocates celebrated the decision as a major victory, gathering at rallies and press events to express their support. They argued that the court's ruling was a crucial step toward enhancing public safety and represented an important check on the power of federal agencies to loosen gun regulations without oversight. The Giffords Law Center, a leading gun control organization, praised the court for what they described as closing a dangerous loophole that could have made it easier for firearms to fall into the wrong hands. The ruling has sharply escalated the already intense conflict between gun rights and gun control advocates, fueling heated debates on television, in courtrooms, and across social media. The decision has drawn a clear and unmistakable line between the two sides, with both camps digging in for what promises to be a prolonged and bitter struggle. Legal teams and political strategists on both sides are now preparing for a drawn-out battle, anticipating further court challenges and legislative fights in the months ahead. The future of suppressor regulation and perhaps the broader interpretation of the Second Amendment itself now hangs in the balance, with the outcome likely to have far-reaching consequences for gun laws in America. As the nation watches closely, the next chapter in this high-stakes legal and political drama is about to unfold, and its impact will be felt for years to come. The court's decision sent shockwaves through Washington, instantly polarizing lawmakers. Republicans condemned the ruling, vowing to introduce legislation to restore the ATF's rule and protect gun rights. Democrats praised the decision as a win for public safety and pledged to block any rollback. In gun-friendly states, lawmakers are exploring Second Amendment sanctuary laws to shield suppressors from federal regulation, setting up a clash with federal authority. Legal experts warn these state efforts are largely symbolic, but the political message is clear. The Supreme Court is likely to be drawn in, with the potential to reshape gun law for years to come. The stakes, legal, political, and cultural, have never been higher. The court's ruling hit the firearms industry hard. The ATF's streamlined rule had fueled a boom in suppressor sales, prompting manufacturers and dealers to expand rapidly. Now, with the return of long wait times, demand has plummeted, leaving companies with unsold inventory and facing layoffs. Small businesses are especially vulnerable, and the loss of tax revenue from suppressor sales will impact federal budgets. Investment in new suppressor technology is expected to stall as uncertainty grows. The industry is now diverting resources to fund legal appeals, further straining finances. The decision has thrown a once thriving sector into turmoil. The economic fallout is just beginning. The suppressor debate cuts deep into American communities, reflecting cultural divides. For many gun owners, suppressor restrictions feel like an attack on their way of life and identity, especially in rural areas where firearms are part of tradition. They see suppressors as practical tools for safety and noise reduction, not threats. In urban centers, however, the fear is real. Quieter gunfire could make shootings harder to detect and respond to. The court's decision reassures those who prioritize public safety, but deepens the rural-urban divide. The debate highlights the challenge of crafting one-size-fits-all policy in a diverse nation. Suppressors have become a symbol in the larger struggle between individual liberty and collective security. The social echo of this fight will reverberate for years to come. Legal experts emphasize that the D.C. Circuit's recent ruling is less a sweeping statement about gun rights themselves and more a significant commentary on the boundaries of executive power in the United States. Rather than directly addressing whether suppressors should be legal or not, the court focused on the process, clarifying that it is Congress, not federal agencies, that holds the authority to make or change laws regarding firearms and their accessories. The court stopped short of declaring suppressor regulation unconstitutional. Instead, it underscored a crucial point. Only Congress has the legitimate power to alter or repeal existing gun laws, such as those governing suppressors. This decision sends a clear message about the separation of powers and the importance of legislative action over executive rulemaking. In response, gun rights advocates are mobilizing for a potential appeal to the Supreme Court. Their arguments are expected to center on two main points. First, that federal agencies have overstepped their authority by regulating suppressors without explicit congressional approval. And second, that suppressors themselves may be protected under the Second Amendment, which guarantees the right to keep and bear arms. Should the Supreme Court agree to hear the case, the resulting decision could set a landmark precedent, not just for gun laws, but for the broader question of how much power federal agencies have to interpret and enforce legislation. Legal scholars are watching closely, as the outcome could reshape the relationship between Congress, the courts, and executive agencies for years to come. Meanwhile, public health experts view the ruling as a necessary pause in the expansion of suppressor access. They argue that this moment provides an opportunity to thoroughly study the potential risks and benefits of more widespread suppressor use, including impacts on crime rates, accidental shootings, and community safety. These experts point out that the National Firearms Act has been a cornerstone of American gun regulation for nearly a century, helping to balance individual rights with public safety. They caution that dismantling or weakening such long-standing laws should not happen without robust public debate and careful consideration of the consequences. What's clear is that both sides, those advocating for expanded gun rights and those urging caution, agree on one thing. This ruling marks the beginning of a new, more intense chapter in America's ongoing debate over firearms. The stakes are high, and the conversation is only growing more passionate and complex. Ultimately, the outcome of this legal battle could redefine the delicate balance between individual rights, public safety, and the authority of federal agencies to regulate firearms. The implications will likely extend far beyond suppressors, touching on the very core of how laws are made and enforced in the United States. With the nation's attention now focused on Congress and the Supreme Court, lawmakers and justices alike face mounting pressure to clarify where the boundaries of the Second Amendment and federal power truly lie. As the debate continues, one thing is certain: the future of the Second Amendment and the laws that shape it is once again at the center of America's legal and political stage. We've traced the suppressor debate from its origins to today's legal and cultural firestorm. The issue has reignited fears on both sides, of lost rights and of increased danger. The fight is headed to the Supreme Court and Congress, with economic and social consequences rippling nationwide. In this polarized moment, dialogue is more important than ever. Can Americans have a fact-based conversation about gun technology, rights, and safety? The outcome will shape our laws and communities for years to come. We urge viewers to learn, listen, and engage, because this debate belongs to all of us. Good night.